Today, let's talk about the biggest lesson from 2018. I'll tell you about the biggest professional failure that I had. Complete and total, fall flat on my face failure. So, guys, as you know, I've been talking about my 2018 lessons learned from my own personal experience that I'm sharing with you, that hopefully a couple of things might be relevant. I want to tell you about failure. I want to tell you about the biggest professional failure I had for 2018 and why it's important and what you can learn from it. So the biggest failure I had in 2018, I enjoyed doing local kind of meet and eats here in town where I get together with a room full of people. We'll usually have some lunch or some dinner, and I'll give a presentation. I'll do some training. I'll try and do it to get my name out there, to let people become acquainted with me, what I do. And I've had some success with them in the past. I really enjoyed doing them, and professionally it worked out pretty well for me. Excuse me, coffee time. Last January in 2018, I started with kind of one of the themes that I like to do is, I talk about New Year's resolutions because so many people are paying attention to it. Whether you agree with it or not, it's part of our culture, and so people will tend to be focused a little bit on personal development, and I take advantage of that, and I offered one of these seminars in the evening. It was probably just about a year ago to the day. I booked a room, I paid the fee for it, I brought my computer over, I invited a bunch of people. I had probably 7 to 10 people who said they were going to come, and another 6 or 7 who said maybe, which means you can get anywhere from 0 to 15 or 16. You have no idea usually when you put these things on. So I go over there, I'm setting up, I get my computer set up. The gentleman who ran the facility decided that he would stay late. He'd close down. He was a very nice guy. Nobody shows up. Nobody shows up at all. Can't figure out what's going on. It's a rainy night. It's kind of cold. I thought maybe people aren't driving. Then the gentleman who ran the facility pointed out to me that one of the bigger entrepreneurs in town was having a big kind of a marketing shindig downtown in Pensacola. And of course I didn't know that when I booked this room in advance. So he said, well, maybe the business types are downtown at that big function. So I thought, oh, great. Well, finally I was just getting ready to pack it in. A friend of mine came, and he came mainly just to support me. Thought, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll do my talk. I'll do my presentation. Always can use some practice, maybe get these guys to maybe give them a little value. And I don't know if they were just tired at the end of the day or if they just don't like the content that much, but it was probably one of the most depressing talks I've ever given. There was no energy in the room. They were nice guys who looked like they were there to just support me, but it looked like they would rather be hitting themselves in the head with a hammer than actually sit there and listen to me talk. And that was the biggest failure professionally I'd had in doing one of these things. However, it actually, there was a good lesson learned. Failure's feedback. Failure's feedback. And what that showed me was that I can't rely on just doing local talks. I had to start doing this internet thing a lot more, even though I really wasn't comfortable or familiar with it. That put me on the path in which I really started putting myself out there. And like I started this group, the GMEG. Had no idea what I was doing when I started it. Didn't know what to talk about. Wasn't comfortable getting in front of a camera and doing these Facebook Lives. But I took a risk. And I did all of these things. And that's what my final lesson or my final takeaway from 2018 is. How much risk are you taking in your business and in your personal life? And I don't mean necessarily financial risk or the risk of time, although that's important. You're never really going to change unless you take some risk. Sometimes it's money risk, sometimes it's time risk, but in particular, I'm talking about putting yourself out there. Are you putting yourself out there in your business and making yourself uncomfortable? Whether it's doing prospecting, maybe you're doing some cold calling, maybe you're trying to create new content, maybe you have to learn some kind of way to learn about funnels or about some software where you can multiply your effectiveness, where you can automate some of your functions. You might have to spend a little money and hire somebody and become a supervisor. Could be any number of things, but you're never going to get anywhere if you don't really begin to stretch yourself and take a risk. You have to risk falling flat on your face, because you know what? It's not nearly as bad as you think it would. I used to think it would be terrible to bomb. I used to think, what if you gave a talk and nobody came? What if you give a talk and everybody just stares at you and glassy-eyed, slack-jawed, hating life? Well, you know what? The sun came up the next day. Sun came up the next day. My business was still here. I still had clients. I still had prospects to contact. I decided, well, I'll just have to supplement that a little bit. And I took on a whole new adventure, took on a whole new series of learning and training and meeting people. I've made some great friends online. I love this group. I love the people in the group. It put me in a whole other different direction, but I might not have been able, I probably wouldn't have taken that path if I hadn't had that failure. If I hadn't put myself out there and realized that didn't work, I need to up my game. I need to do something else. So that's final takeaway from 2018 lessons learned. Take a risk. In particular, put yourself out there. Make yourself uncomfortable. Change is going to come. You are going to change. You're going to get older. Things are going to happen to you. Life is going to happen. You might as well take advantage of that and grow into it and become a better person this year than you were last year. You might as well keep getting better rather than getting worse or staying the same, which really is just another form of getting worse. So take a risk. That's the lesson for 2018. Take care, guys. I'm really glad you stopped by. Remember, take a risk. This is 2019, brand new year. Don't sit on your butt. Get busy. Start stretching yourself. Take a risk. Make yourself better.